I anchor in truth, I ground in love. I see the shadow, and I do not turn away. I speak what must be spoken, I protect what must be protected. I remember who we are, and I call it forward now. Hi everybody, Danny here with Ground State Tarot. Coming to you with a special collective reading. I decided to relaunch Ground State at a very interesting time in our collective story. I don't even have to go into any more detail than that, and I'm sure you know exactly what I'm talking about. So, my intention with this reading is to bring a sense of clarity, not necessarily to sugarcoat or avoid or deflect. But it's important for us to collectively agree on what it is that we're all experiencing, because this is very much, at least based on my personal beliefs, that we are going through a collective awakening experience that quite frankly began during COVID. That was really the catalyst that set it off. And again, doesn't matter which side of the political spectrum you necessarily fall on, it affected everybody. Okay, so what we are now experiencing is the continuation of that awakening, and I want to check in with Spirit to see if we can get any clues as to how to find the right language to describe this moment. We are all climbing a mountain together. A seemingly insurmountable obstacle, a giant wall, concrete wall, seemingly unable to be scaled, unable to be climbed. But it's not so, because if you look clearly, we see there are valleys, there are ways to walk around, maybe even a way to walk through a cave. The point is, we are all collectively encountering this mountain climb, to put it lightly. Steep. But there's also an opportunity to grow through the experience of the trajectory that we'll be taking to get through this mountain, to the top of the mountain, to the other side of the mountain, however you want to see it. There's an opportunity to grow, to expand, to stretch beyond our limits. Yeah. To expand your heart field. That's exactly right. This is not an exercise in masochism. This is an exercise in evolution, an exercise in progress. Progress without tension doesn't lead to much expansion. But at the end of the day, it's important to acknowledge that it is not an easy task that we are facing together, no matter the ultimate goal of expanding our hearts and opening our hearts, learning that we are truly brothers and sisters, not only in the eyes of God, but we're all walking each other home at the end of the day. And so, hopefully, already there is a degree of hope that we're being introduced to without sugarcoating, right? I think that's what I said at the beginning of this. I didn't want to sugarcoat, but I also wanted to give ourselves a chance at seeing beyond momentarily, even though we're very much in the middle of dealing with this right in our face. We're not imagining the climb, we're in it as we speak. It's important to acknowledge that there are opportunities to find love, hope, joy, peace, reconciliation, purpose through this hardship. This is going to be a special reading already. Agape. Agape is love in Greek, if I'm not mistaken. Let's confirm that before I keep going, but I believe that's correct. Yes, it is. We get agape. Synchronicity. Look at that. Devotion. Unconditional love. Climbing through something like this requires devotion. It requires commitment. It is not for the faint of heart what we're all collectively going through. Not at all. But again, it's not an exercise in masochism. It's an exercise in heart expansion. Confirmed right away by Spirit with agape. What if instead of putting yourself at the center of your spiritual practice, you put God, Goddess, or nature at the center? How would this change your approach? Such is the energy of agape. It is alive when we are in awe and wonder, our breath taken away by the sacred force that surrounds us and asks for nothing in return. This card can indicate a spiritual initiation that stretches your capacity to love and serve. What did I say? What did I say? This is an exercise in expansion. Wow. You sense the earthly as the heavenly and vice versa. Such an initiatory moment can appear in any form, and, like a healing balm to the modern soul, its effects last a lifetime. Okay? There's purpose to this pain, people. The agape card may also suggest you reassess what you worship every day, consciously or unconsciously. What are you elevating? Where does the sacred ladder you climb ultimately lead to? So the light meaning of this card is service, reverence, honor, joy. The shadow side is spiritual bypassing, righteousness. I mean, there are a whole lot of people right now out there pretending to be religious folk, and boy oh boy, are they the complete opposite of that. They're very, what shall we call it? Diabolical, actually. The opposite of agape, the opposite of love. And it's important that we begin to get comfortable with becoming peaceful warriors for love. We are not in the era of becoming spectators. We are in the era of actively participating in co-creating the world that we want. And why do I say that? I say that because all of the revelations that we've come across recently, the Epstein stuff, all of the propaganda, the money that we know is involved in everything from politics to you name it, religion even. It's important for us to remember that we have more power than we give ourselves credit for as a collective when we tap into agape, love, being of service, being devoted to the idea of being a brother and sister in humanity. Quite simple. And so I think it's vital that we all choose to be, again, peaceful warriors for love, of love, tapping into compassion, tapping into grace, tapping into joy, pleasure, all of the things that come with an open heart. That's what we need more of. We don't need any more cynicism. We don't need any more bitterness. We don't need any more closed off, walled off hearts. We need open hearts that are willing and able to give freely without condition. This was again unconditional love. We get standstill from the sacred destiny. Standstill. A swamp is a low-lying area with woody plants, shrubs, and trees, where water collects and saturates the ground. During rainy seasons, swamplands become overwhelmed with water. The edge of the swamp is often a quagmire of mud and silt. But an abundance of plants and swamp insects dwell there. Because of the sticky nature of the mud, it is often impossible to walk through swamplands. Even trying to maneuver with a boat can be difficult and treacherous because of dense vegetation. However, there's great value in swamplands. They act as natural flood control, as runoff can be temporarily stored in their basins. They keep the land around them from washing away. Lush vegetation provides a haven for nesting birds and waterfowl, as well as habitat to mammals such as beaver. Freshwater swamps near the Tigris and the Euphrates rivers in the Middle East are part of the Fertile Crescent and contributed to the fertility of the land for the earliest humans. Okay, so now this is the meaning of the card. If it feels that some areas of your life have slowed down or even come to a standstill, you are right. Something is not progressing. Even if it seems that things are flowing, look beneath the surface. Perhaps something is immovable. What? I mean, standstill also, but the immovable part reminded me of the wall. The first step to becoming unstuck is to acknowledge where you are. No more deflecting, no more pretending. The soul loves the truth. In life, you can either say, there are no weeds, or you can notice the weeds and begin pulling them out. Notice what isn't working in your life, and then take slow, steady steps to unblock the barriers. In nature, when one is being sucked into mud, the worst thing to do is struggle. The best thing to do is slowly and carefully, one step at a time, extricate yourself with intentional moves, intentional presence, stillness, standing your ground. That is what allows you to sort of smooth your way out of that, right? Wow. I mean, we are collectively at an impasse. A standstill is an impasse. The division can't get any more divided, right? I mean, it can, but we're not going to go there because we're not going to go there. I don't think we have the stomach for that kind of visceral violence. Let's call it what it would be, right? Any more division than what we have now would be visceral violence that I don't believe we have a stomach for. So, I'm going to pull one more. Yeah, from here. One more, and then I'll do a little bit of tarot. And when we are at such an impasse, such a feeling of stagnation, it is important to stay connected to your heart. It is important to not close yourself off, to not give in to fear. Fear is the mind killer. Those of you that watched Dune might remember that, right? Or read the book. Fear is not something that we want to give into right now, and there are forces that are invested in making sure that we stay enchanted by the darkness. And so your role right now is to stay enchanted, not with the darkness, but to stay enchanted with love and magic. There's magic in the air. Okay? Not all is lost. And it would be silly to think so. It would be silly to think that we have entered a stage where we have completely lost our agency. We are at a threshold where that is being actively decided, but we are not quite done with whatever story is unfolding. Again, I think most of us are just coming to terms with this idea that the way that we thought the world functioned is not it. One thing about this card, a lot of what we've heard about when it comes to the elite and that world of privilege and power being perverted in the truest sense of the word, a lot of those people, powerful interests, whatever it is, they put out ideas out there that dark things were happening, dark magic, satanic things, all of that. You know what I'm getting at. And they did that to sort of hook people with the sort of theatricality of the picture they're painting. But they also did so to disconnect people from the idea that there is indeed a force that can go one way or the other. They used that force, whether it was an actual deeply held belief in their heart, it doesn't matter. They set off on these dark experiences, dark bonding experiences that were pretty much rituals. They're pretty much rituals. So by the same token, that's the only reason why I'm going deep into this is because this reminded me of that aspect of what's going on. By the other side of all of that, there's also light magic. There's also love magic. There's also the kind of restorative, regenerative, creative magic that is exactly the default operating system of the universe, which is to keep generating, keep creating, recycling itself. That's why the idea of death and rebirth is something that we see repeated so much in nature, in the different cultures and philosophies throughout time. So it's important to remember that as these people try to disconnect us from our own magic, as these people try to enchant us with the perversion with which they treat humans, humanity, the human condition, it's time for us to reclaim our agency, reopen our hearts after being closed off because of life, because of cynicism, because of the intimidating factor of everything that we're all experiencing. It's important to remember that the real magic happens when you face that darkness head on, that fear, and you say, I see you, but I'm not going anywhere. I'm standing my ground. I'm staying right here, right? We get the Two of Swords. That connects to this standstill. There's an impasse. This is very much, I hate to go with this division idea, but there is a split. There is a split happening right now. There are those that are going to double down on the closing of their hearts, and there are those of us who are reawakening, going through a remembering, and we are doubling down on staying open no matter what. That, I believe, is the key to making it through this dualistic world of extremes right now. That's the other thing that this is telling me. We are in a world of extremes, and it's causing the majority of us who are still very much open to feel sometimes, quite frankly, paralyzed. But it is important, again, to not let that completely set in and keep your heart open even as we go through that climb. There is a lot of oppressive thoughts, a lot of anxiety, a lot of feeling like being stuck between a rock and a hard place. Again, this
feeling of stagnation, impasse, standstill, paralyzed, fear. That's very much describing this mountain, right? It's again, this was not going to be a reading where I tried to sugarcoat things. It was a reading where I was going to try to give it to you as straight as possible, right? And this is being reinforced by the cards that have come out so far with the tarot. We are going through a threshold. This is a gate also. Once you make a choice to either stay closed off with your heart or open, that's when you are able to walk through. Those who double down on not staying with an open heart stay in this. Those who open their hearts are able to stand their ground. They stay protected. They are part of the light as opposed to the darker elements out there. The Seven of Wands is a card of defending yourself, standing your ground, protection. It could be defensiveness also, so we have to watch that. We have to be careful not to become defensive. That's closing your heart, but it's also keeping in mind that there are times where we're going to have to hold our ground, right? And one last card to tie this all up. We've established what the energetic makeup of what we're going through feels like right now. It's pretty accurate. There's a need to be aware of the heaviness while also being aware of standing right where you are, staying open, believing in magic, believing in miracles. Also being aware of how we're being manipulated, right? By our inability to remember our magic. They really, really do a psyop on us when they tell us that magic is not real, when that's all they're doing. Propaganda, psyop, that's a spell. That's ritualistic manipulation. So let's not pretend anymore, because we are no longer living in the era where we can pretend that we know exactly what reality looks like, because every single file that has been released has been proving that we really don't have a handle on what reality actually is. So this is, quite frankly, a necessary experience. We're learning to co-create the magician. We're learning to create the world that we want from a place of agency. This is someone who learns to work with all four elements: air, fire, water, earth. You use all of those combined with spirit, that which connects you to your higher self, to your higher ideals, to God if you want to go there. But this is a mountain climb to become the magician by staying in love, unconditional love, standing your ground, staying connected to the magic, and getting rid of this negative oppression, putting that behind us, walking through this threshold with an open heart despite not seeing the future clearly, but knowing that it will all come together. I just made this connection. Magic, magician, come on. We're leaving it there. Just remember, everything is up for grabs right now, including your own belief about how we can begin to see the world and usher in the world that we want to live in. The time is now to co-create. Let's do this. All right, leaving it there. I hope you guys appreciate this. Till next time.